The 90-piece man. In Italy, an important person is sometimes called a pezzo novanta. Pezzo means piece, and novanta means 90. Sue stared at the white van. Then she turned to her husband. "What is that?" she asked. "It's a Volkswagen camper. It's got a cooker, beds, everything. We can go to Italy in it this summer." "James, you can't be serious." "Of course I'm serious. Katy will get you and me and the children to Italy. No problem. She's a wonderful old van." "Katy?" James pointed to the number plate. Katy 343. Katy T. Katy. Katy. "Very nice, but I don't want to travel across Europe in it. What happens if it breaks down?" "There will be, on an Italian motorway, autostrada." "What?" "Autostrada. That's Italian for motorway." "On an Italian motorway," said Sue, ignoring him. "In the middle of nowhere, the children tired and thirsty, and nobody who speaks English. Don't worry, Sue. Katy won't break down. She's a good van." "She? Don't you mean it?" said Sue. James said nothing. He patted Katy's side. "Oh, all right," said Sue. "We'll go to Italy in your van, but I refuse to call it Katy. It's just a van, and it's certainly not female, okay?" "Italy, here we come," he shouted. The Italian sun was hot. The children were tired and thirsty. Sue was tired and thirsty and angry. James was under the van, trying to find out what was wrong. On the autostrada, cars and lorries and vans went past at high speed. This is not pleasant to watch when your own van has broken down. James stood up. His hands and face were black. He started to explain what was wrong. "I think there's a broken blah 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 blah." To Sue, it was a foreign language. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Just tell me one thing. Can you mend it?" James looked at Sue. He looked at his hands. He looked at the sky. Then he looked at Sue again. Well, that is to say, well, it's not easy. If only I had, in others' words, no." James looked at his hands and at the sky again. Then he looked at Sue. It was time to tell the truth. "Yes, right. The answer is no, I cannot mend it." That was the truth. James felt better. He sat down on the grass, lay back and closed his eyes. "You're not going to sleep, are you?" "James, what are we going to do? We can't stay here. It will be dark soon." "I am thinking. It's a pity you didn't think before you bought this thing." "Don't be unkind. Katy is not a thing. She is a good old van, but, like all old things, she has a few problems sometimes." "Well, Mr. Carson, your good old van has broken down. It won't go. This van is sick. If it was a horse, you would shoot it. And the driver. Right now, if I had a gun, I'd—" Before Sue could tell her husband that she was ready to shoot him, a car stopped behind them. There were two men in the car, the driver and an older man sitting in the back. The driver got out and came up to them. "Buonasera, signori. Posso aiutarvi?" Sue smiled at him. When she spoke to him, she spoke very loudly. "He will understand English if I shout," she thought. "Thank you. I'm afraid we don't speak Italian. We have broken down. My husband does not know what to do." The young man smiled. He did not understand a word. "Scusi, signora, non capisco." Sue decided to try another method. Baby talk. "Me no understand Italian. This car no good. No go. Very bad. You help? Yes? Sai? Per favore." "That's really very good, Sue," said James. "You didn't tell me that you could speak Italian." "All right. You try to explain to him what's wrong. Tell him about the broken thing." "Thing? Oh, you mean the broken blah blah blah." James explained the problem for the second time, and Sue understood nothing for the second time. "Look, Mr. James Clever Carson," she screamed. "I know you can't speak Italian. It's a pity you can't speak English either." She lifted her hands in the air and looked up at the sky. "I hate vans and I hate men." She felt better after that. The driver was listening carefully. He didn't understand, but he smiled anyway. He liked English people. They are always so calm in a crisis. The older man got out of the car. Cosa c'è? What's the matter? The driver explained about the language problem. Good afternoon, said the older man in perfect English. May I introduce myself? My name is Donzelli. Signore Enzo Donzelli, at your service. My card. He handed his card to James, but Sue took it. The card was clean and white with gold lettering. It said that he was Enzo Donzelli of Rome, director of the Donzelli Import-Export Company. It also showed that he had offices in Milan, Turin and Naples, and a lot of telephone lines, telexes and fax numbers. She thanked him, pointed at the van, shook her head and said, "It won't go." Signor Donzelli looked at the old VW camper. Ah, yes, the Volkswagen. A wonderful German machine. But at the moment it is not wonderful, because it will not go. Well, don't worry, cara signora. I shall send a mechanic to see to it. Arrivederci. How kind of Mr. Donzelli to help us like that, Sue said. They were speeding down the autostrada in Katy. James did not reply. Why did the mechanic refuse to take any money? Wasn't that kind of him? Italians are very kind, aren't they? I could have mended the van myself, James said. Really, dearest? So why did you say earlier that you couldn't mend it? I never said that. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. The children were enjoying the scene. They loved it when Mum and Dad argued. Yes, you did, Daddy, said one of them. Be quiet, children, said Sue. Don't upset your father. James smiled. Anyway, he said, Katy is going well now. I told you there was nothing to worry about. The children were hot and thirsty. They were sitting on the grass by the side of the road. Sue was standing by the van, her face as black as thunder. James was under the van. He looked up at Sue. Another broken blah, blah, blah. Yes. Can you? No. Good. Wonderful. What an exciting holiday. Have you any more surprises for us? An earthquake? A revolution? World War III, perhaps? I'll hitchhike to the nearest town and get a mechanic. Several hours later, a smiling mechanic patted the van. She is good. She will go now. No problem. He wrote something on a piece of paper and gave it to James. I conto, the bill if you please. James looked at the number at the bottom of the bill. It started with 99 and had a lot of noughts after it. James changed the number into pounds. There were not so many noughts, of course, but it was still a lot. James knew that he did not have enough money to pay the bill. This is too much, James said. The mechanic shrugged and smiled. Mi dispiace, ma. I'm sorry, but that is the price for such a repair. James looked at the bill again. He looked at Sue. He looked at the sky. He looked at his hands and then at the grass on 160 which the children were sitting. He made a decision. He gave the bill to Sue and said to her, "Tell him that we cannot pay." Then he sat down on the grass, lay back and closed his eyes. The mechanic did not understand. He did not know that the English always remain calm in a crisis. He turned to Sue and began to shout at her in Italian. Sue knew that she needed a miracle now. She remembered Donzelli's white card with the gold lettering. She showed it to the mechanic. Please telephone Mr. Donzelli and explain the situation. He is a friend of ours. He will help us. The mechanic looked at the card. His mouth fell open. He handed the card back to Sue. Then he took the bill from her and said, "No problem. My mistake. You owe me nothing. Please, you owe me nothing. Arrivederci." Excuse me, said Sue, but who is Signor Donzelli? Do you know him? Si, signora. Everyone knows him. He is a real pezzo novanta. A what? but the mechanic had already left. James opened his eyes. "Well done, old girl. By the way, what did he say about Donzelli?" "I'm not sure. I think he said that Mr. Donzelli was a 90-piece man." "The Italians are strange, aren't they? Strange, but very kind. Come on, Sue, let's go. Katy will get us home." "I'm sure she will," said Sue. "Thanks to my friend, the 90-piece man."